Welcome to the Generous Business Owner Podcast, where business owners gain inspiration and encouragement to live a legacy, not just leave one. And now your hosts, Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of the Generous Business Owners Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Lamar King, who is a partner with Bear Wealth Advisors, and he is a senior wealth advisor, director of relationship development, and we are excited to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, excited to be here and spend some time with you.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about some fun things. We're going to start out here by hearing about what was it like, Lamar, in the early days in the King household. Tell us a little bit about spiritual formation, maybe anything, any illegal business activities when you were in junior high school, anything like that.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I was really fortunate and blessed to grow up in a family that loved the Lord, worked hard, grew up on a potato farm where we also raised other crops, but worked really hard as a family with uncles and cousins and with my parents. I have an older brother who has since taken over the farm and just really learned how to work hard, even though it was hard to get out of bed in the morning in those days, sometimes needing water poured on my head from my father. I did learn the benefit and the blessing of working hard and working long and giving it all you got. And so that was a big part of my growing up in terms of the work side, but it was also a family of love for the Lord and love for each other. So my parents showed that affection well for each other, which was a safe environment for me, but certainly not just showing up at church, but seeing Christ throughout the week was a huge blessing for me, and praying together and coming downstairs and seeing my dad in the lazy boy doing his devotions early in the morning was, those things are in my mind as visuals that I can certainly remember. When it comes to illegal or side businesses, certainly the only scholarship I got for college, and this doesn't mean it was illegal, was I did have a yellow lab dog and raised puppies from age 12 through college.
Oh, wow.
And that was probably my first business that wasn't just paid for doing work, but I actually had to manage the books, deal with getting the dog to the vet and making sure puppies are listed. And so that was a really neat experience in seeing the expenses of a business going out the
Yeah.
other side and the time that it took. And then as I went into college, another side gig was buying and selling guitars. So
Oh,
I
wow.
would keep an eye on guitars and like music magazines and other stuff, try to find deals, and then turn around, flip it, sell it on eBay to try to help with some of the college expenses and life expenses at that stage. So those would have been the two that kind of come to mind as maybe early businesses that I did on my own.
Yellow Labs and guitars.
I know,
Wow.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like a
So,
country song.
yeah. So how does that I want to get back to then your school, where
Sure,
you went to school, but and where you met your wife.
sure.
But were some of the things that how old are your kids, Lamar?
So our boys are 13 and 11, and the girls are 9 and 7. So all
Okay.
that kind of middle school down to elementary age.
Wow. Okay. Full crew there. So
Yes,
how are
indeed.
some of those, and we'll talk more about your household of faith,
Hmm,
and some of the habits that you had as a family growing up and how that influenced your current household and your habits,
sure.
you and Grace. But how did the Yellow Labs and the guitar business influence some of the things in the ways that your 11 and 13-year-old are now? They're getting to that age where
Yeah, they certainly are. And so some of that right now is in the lawn mowing space. That
okay.
tends to be an easy starter, right, for boys. And so our oldest this year, over the winter, he really wanted a baseball bat. So we decided to teach him about debt and the business side of, they started mowing last year for money, but then my brother-in-law was looking for someone to mow. And so we just said, hey, if you really want this baseball bat, how could we think about getting it now? But then as you get paid throughout the spring and summer, I'm taking most of that back as a loan payment
There you go.
to offset the cost of the bat. So now, he's getting his 35 bucks. He gives off of that, 20 comes to me, and he walks away with five
Yeah, there you
instead of
go.
35. So he's now kind of feeling the pain of the full year.
Yeah,
And the baseball bat feels like old news, old hat at this point. And
yes,
so that's just one short example, but certainly
that's great.
generosity is a part of all of those things. I saw that in my grandpa. I saw that in my dad, was taught how to do that, not just myself, but ask other people for money as well, which was kind of a unique part of my growing up for fundraisers and such at the Christian school that I went to. So yeah, generosity is a core value of our family, one of our six, and something we talk about often. And at a minimum, it's once a week when we're paying for jobs and having them start splitting up their resources accordingly. So
Wow, that's awesome. So
yeah,
say more about that since you brought that up now. I was going to
yeah,
come back to that later, but just talk a little bit more about that because that's definitely a hot topic right now in the philanthropic community is how do we pass on this spirit of generosity and this value that's so important to us to that next gen.
yeah. Uh, we haven't done it perfect, and we're still learning this. But some of the things we started early when they were younger was around Christmas time, showing them videos of organizations that we cared about and gave them options. And so this started many years ago, and we would start with $100. Like each kid, you get to choose where $100 goes. Let's watch these four videos of
Wow.
local ministries that we care about, and you get to decide and then write a letter to go along with it. And so that kind of started when they were young, and it was Grace and I's money, not the Lord's money that Grace and I were stewarding, not the kids' money yet. But now, as they got older, we moved into like an allowance structure for household chores to be part of the team. And then now, as they've gotten older, we've moved towards specific paying for jobs. So they can ask to earn more money by accomplishing certain things. And then we've used kind of the three jar method. Early on, we kind of had set percentages, but now we give them freedom in that to kind of decide. So it's really cool to watch some of the kids give 75% of the money that comes in into the giving
Wow.
jar. They save the rest and they don't put anything in their spending, where others put 60% in their spending, 20% in their giving, and 20% in their saving. So each one's a little bit different. But just kind of asking them questions. Well, why did you do that this time? Why was that different? Well, I really have this thing I'm thinking about. So we're trying to, as much as possible, because they're all different,
Right.
walk through with each one and shepherd their heart, because one might have the gift of generosity from the Spirit of God, and
Yeah.
others might not. And so to encourage them in that and question them so that they're not comparing with each other too much and using someone else's metric for their giving or their saving, but and really considering it themselves.
Wow,
Those are
that's
some
really
pieces.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are really good practices and really good habits to get into. I know I Like Giving has some curriculum that's out there. We could put that in the show notes, but this
Cool.
is what you're talking about here is so rich. If you can have not just be talking about it with the kids, but have them be an experience in it, letting them make the decisions. It's
Yeah.
even, I feel like, more valuable, like you said, if they earned the money by working,
Yeah.
but getting into the habit of making those decisions, even if it's, you know, if it's allocated, okay, you get to decide. Both are valuable.
Yeah, and I think agreed. And we're still learning this and finding out new ways to do it. But one of the neat things that we've added over the last couple of years is actually praying for the places where we're sending money as well. So we have like a index card on a ring at the kitchen table. And we go through seasons where we'll do that every night, and then we'll miss it for a couple of weeks and then think about it again. So the kids and us as our family are praying for the ministries and our church where Grace and I give to. So the kids know where all of our giving goes. The older ones know the dollar amounts typically. So we try to not hold much back in that area. It's just so that they can kind of see it and hear it and be a part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think you just had the opportunity to take one of your kids on a trip. Is that right?
Yeah,
Is that right?
so yeah, that's another, so that would be kind of on the time side of things. So as our kids reach age 10, we want to get them out of this country and into another country, kind
Hmm.
of in those formative years where, about to head to middle school and I'm the center of the world, which is still an issue for a 41-year-old
Yeah.
that needs the daily die. But the pressure is high at that stage of life. And so before they get into that, when they're 10, we take them overseas. So yes, both of our boys have been on a Hope International trip to the Dominican Republic. Our daughter, who's 9, who'll turn 10 this fall, will probably, Lord willing, take her early of 2026 when she's like 10 and a half. Hope does a great job of having family specific trips. So there's a lot of kids on the trip. It's all parents and kids, and the kids get to interact together about what they see. And it's this cool blend of generosity, business, and one-on-one time with your kids. So yeah, that's been a really special thing for us.
Wow. Yeah, that's something they will definitely remember, and it's something they can look forward to.
Yeah.
Okay, we might circle back to that, but take us
Yep.
through the school years.
Sure.
Yeah, walk us through that season.
Yeah. So going into college, I wasn't sure where I was going to go or what my major was going to be. And I remember very clearly where I was standing in my church when a close friend came up to me and just said, "Hey, I know you're struggling knowing with what the Lord's will is for what you're going to study or where." But he said, 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18 says, "Be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the Lord's will for you in Christ Jesus." He's like, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter, but it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter because it's
Hmm.
who are you in Christ, no matter where you're at and what you're doing.
Hmm.
That's his will for you. And so that was freeing. Those became my life verses for the last 20 plus years. And so the Lord led me to Cedarville University out in Ohio, small Christian school, in a one light. Maybe there's more lights than that now, but it was very similar to the small farm town that I grew up in. Far enough away that I was away, but close enough that I could sneak in for an Eagles playoff game over the weekend with my family or something if necessary. So studied accounting and finance, double major. Actually started with accounting and world missions, and then figured out pretty quickly that if the Lord wanted to send me overseas, that I didn't need a degree to do that. And those two uh, majors don't have any courses that count for each other, unfortunately. So I actually dropped world missions, added a finance double major, which ended up being a huge blessing because I ended up enjoying finance a lot more than accounting anyway. So
Hmm.
and that's where I met Grace. We met early freshman year, didn't start dating, yeah, till junior year. But yeah, my bride, my right hand person in life. We just I can't imagine life without her. So she grew up on the mission field. I never was on an airplane. There, two people from very similar backgrounds in Christ, but very different backgrounds in experience, ended up meeting each other and got married right after college and moved to the Lancaster area. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So you get your double major, get your degrees, move to Lancaster. Yeah.
yeah.
What was your first job out of school?
Yeah, so I worked at a local bank, a local holding company that owned multiple banks. That's where I had done my internship. And I remember the first week I started having a conversation with my dad. He said, "You'll never need another job." It was a bank that had been grounded locally for a very long time. And a year later, newly married with college debt, found out that there was an over $250 million fraud in one of the affiliates. And so stock price tanked. We find out we're getting bought out. And within a year, I knew I was going to be losing my job. So yeah, early on, I was in a cash management division of a bank and hoping to move towards a relationship type role within that same department. But God had a different plan. So over that year, I had to learn how to ebb and flow. I was in a lot of different departments, kind of on the forensics team, trying to figure out what was real and what wasn't real in the fraud situation. I worked in the statement department, the IT backup, all the information department, stayed where I was a little bit. So I really got to learn a lot in that kind of painful year of unknown. And then that's when Grace and we had a couple different options: go back to Cedarville as a resident director, move to Naples, Florida, be a worship pastor, or work at another local bank as an agricultural lender. And so she was working at Hope International. She had an international business degree and was loving it there. We had plugged into our church, and it just seemed like the Lord was leading us to stay inside of the banking industry and stay in this community. So yeah, then I became a commercial banker, working with ag background businesses and farmers, other business owners for about 10 years, and loved what I was doing, was thriving in that space, loved my team. And I came home one day, left arm went numb, and went on a little physical heart journey, EKG, stress test, all that stuff. And in that process, asked Grace if she knew who she would call if I would have had a heart attack and passed away. And she did not have an answer. So I called Ron Bear at Bear Wealth Advisors and said, hey, we need a personal financial plan. And so that's what we did. We came as clients to the company where I'm at now. And they, in that process, just asked if I would prayerfully consider a career change, and wasn't looking for one. We were trying to reestablish margin in life. We were doing way too much. I thought I was the savior of the world, and Christ said that, that was taken care of, that was finished.
Mhm.
And so we started pulling back out of things, and yeah, ended up working at Bear Wealth Advisors and have been there for over 6 years and just love it. I had a chance to become partner recently, and it's just been a real blessing to see how God's sovereign hand has, guided each step of the way, and basically closed doors and opened doors when I wasn't even looking. So,
Wow. Wow. Those
yeah,
are two very different but similar in that they were kind of mini crises.
they were.
They ended up leading to better things.
They did. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about how you think about generosity in different forms, as far as influence,
Hmm.
time, money, the impact that your generosity is having, that you're obviously deeply involved, both, all the way from your kids who are
Yeah.
7, 9, 11, and 13, up through the generosity that you and Grace are involved in. And then also you get to advise others.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a huge blessing in all of those areas. I had seen it early growing up, and my grandpa and my dad, giving was always a part of my life. And then I would say when the Lord rescued me in my sophomore year of high school and redeemed me, generosity or giving is one of those spiritual gifts that I believe that I have. And so I want to exercise that. My personal mission statement is to empower and exhort all of God's children to be generous with everything they've been given. That was my mission statement before I got to do this as a career, right? As a part
Wow.
of being a financial advisor.
That's awesome. Say more about that. I
Yeah.
want to stay on the main track there, but say more about that. When did you develop that as your personal mission statement?
Yeah, I would say it was about 10 years ago where I started working on a personal mission statement. And it was, again, it was kind of a part of life and something that we did, but to actually write it down was a whole different process and scenario. So to walk through that and try to start getting core values in front of us, like not just have them, but write them down and then filter decisions in life through them. We just thought it was important to have a personal mission statement. And so, yeah, and then to be able to walk into that, to come to a company where generosity is one of our three core values as a company, and to, as a part of my job, get to talk about generosity all the time with clients and with their finances. I believe it is a core or a capstone or a cornerstone to every good financial plan. It's to be able to think outside of ourselves with the resources that are in our hands, and to be intentional with them and to excel in it. So yeah, I love talking about giving. I love not telling people what to do, but trying to pull it out of them and help them discover what's God calling them to do with what He's placed in their hands. And then obviously come up with the fun strategies and put the puzzle together to do it, with clients.
Yeah. So one of the things that I know you have done, Lamar, is so I'm just going to pause the recording here right now, guys. Just keep that microphone out. You just went real. That's why I was doing this. You went real quiet. Yeah. Just keep it in front of you. So we can go back on record. Thank you. So Lamar, what is the mission statement?
Yeah.
And yeah, and then talk a little bit about TWIT. What does TWIT stand for?
So, yeah, my personal mission statement is to empower and exhort all of God's children to be generous with all that they've been given. And so I think some of the ways I've been learning to do that differently than just with finances, which has probably been just the natural and supernatural default of life, just enjoying blessing people financially, is to start using influence and assets to be generous more than just cash. And so, yeah, TWIT stands for tournament within a tournament. And 11 years ago, I don't even remember why or how it all specifically came together, but we started this little tournament to raise money to have people donate money to Hope International. And then Grace and I would bless them with a round of golf and just have fun fellowshipping together. So that started 11 years ago. Actually, your wife, Jeff, Sue brought, I think it was some sort of quiche or egg casserole
Yeah.
to the very first one for our breakfast food. And yes, since then it's gone to last year was the 10th year, and the Lord brought 60 golfers together, many donors. The giving to Hope, I think, was doubled year over year from year 9 to 10. And we're taking another step of faith this year to take on the whole golf course and see if the Lord will fill the spots. So
Wow.
it's a chance for people to donate directly to Hope, and whether they show up for golf or not, that's up to them. We're just calling them forth to give to Hope, and then if they do want to golf, then we take them out for a round of golf, give them some food, and have some fun together. And the tournament within a tournament stands for the winners then play in the actual Hope International Golf Tournament in September. So it's kind of
Yeah.
a play-in two-man scramble, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, that's so cool. I think that you see that as a mission, as a way that God can use you to help mobilize and
Yeah.
encourage others to get involved, both in having fun together, but also giving together and seeing the impact that they can have.
Yeah. Yeah. So it really has been a blessing to use that influence and encouragement and to live out my mission in that regard. And then, yeah, other asset things like starting to give unique experiences to auctions of local places, whether that's Eagle tickets or a round of golf and a fun restaurant visit, just to, I don't know, to think about ways to bless people in unique ways and to raise money for organizations has been some fun new things we've been trying here the last couple years. So,
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. So, how do you think about, just in general, how do you think about whether it's your, 7, 9, 11, and 13-year-old kids, or you and
Yeah.
Grace's generosity? How do you think about where you're going to give, how you're going, what's the impact of that giving? Um, yeah, how do you discern? How do you talk about it both from the kids level up through, your discerning, and how much of that came from some of what
Hmm.
you learned from your, generations before you?
Yeah, it's a great question. This is an ongoing thing that Grace and I continue to learn 19 years into marriage. But some of the things that have been helpful is the use of a donor advised fund, which kind of um, structures our giving and allows us to see it and see the impact and look back over the last couple years, not just flipping through my old spreadsheets, but actually having some good reports. And that allows us kind of when we sit down at the end of the year and kind of reassess what does the Lord have for us the next year? Should we grow our giving in dollars or percent? And are there any new organizations that we want to come around and have an impact in? And so our local body is the core place where we give. And then on top of that, we look specifically in the areas of the poor, the gospel going forth in word. And so most of that happens through missionaries, through church building, through local missionaries on college campuses, and then certainly through the poor, that's also local and also overseas. So I was really blessed. I don't know if the listeners have heard of the Compass Financial study called Charting Your Legacy, but it's been a huge blessing to lead people through that, for myself to go through it multiple times. And there's a pretty cool generosity grid in that study that thinks about, as a financial advisor, we think about diversification all the time. Ecclesiastes 11, split your income into sevenths and eighths. No one knows what tomorrow might bring. Like, let's make sure we're spreading this out. And one of the things that we started thinking about a couple years ago when I first went through that study was, how about the biblical mandate for giving in certain areas, widows, the poor, the church? So where is your money going? And Lamar, is it hitting those biblical areas and also beyond that? So yeah, so it was helpful to actually put on a grid local, national, international, and then different levels or different areas specifically, and say, are we giving in those areas? And if not, do we feel the Lord's call on us to? Or do we really want to hone in on a few other ones? So that's how Grace and I have done it. And then we're looking at that at least on an annual basis, if not more regularly as opportunities come up, kind of filtering it through those. And then the kids, it really goes back to that, the videos and sharing those at the end of the year, how we've done that. And then the ongoing conversations. Typically, they're giving throughout the year is as opportunities come up, VBS at church, or we're doing a donation to something. So we bring up an example to them. But it's not more intentional than that, in a sense of, um, it's just really been those few areas.
Wow, no, that's
Yeah.
really, I love that. It's very robust, it's very thoughtful, it's very intentional. And if there's any of those, either a website uh,
Yeah,
or a link that you can send, and we'll put that in the show notes.
sure.
Always trying to, anything else from your, obviously you get to talk with a lot of families
Hmm.
about, some of these biblical principles and just creative ways of leveraging more resources for the kingdom.
Hmm.
Anything else that you'd like to share in that regard?
Um, Not necessarily. I think the main thing that just always comes to mind is it's just so easy to not go before the Lord, who is the owner of all things. Like, we can get into these habits or regular things, whether that's through a donor advised fund and regular ins and outs, or whether that's this is just kind of what we've always done, so we're just always going to do that. But to actually take time to say, okay, Lord, I'm your steward, you're the owner. Where's your heart, and how would you like to filter your resources through us? So I think it sounds super simple, but I think it's something that can oftentimes get overlooked,
Oh yeah,
is like we have to pause and seek the Lord to say, where's your heart? Where are you at work? How can I join you there? And is that something you want us specifically to be a part of, or to just pray for? And to be intentional about that, and not just get stuck in ruts, even good ruts, but to take it before the Lord and ask Him what He
yeah,
would do.
absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Ask the owner.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up here, what are some of what's one tip? What's one thing that you would for someone running on the treadmill or walking the dog, listen to this podcast,
Hmm.
what's one thing that you would say, this is something that I'd like you to remember about this session?
Great question. Um, I've really been learning the last couple weeks in a couple different ways. The Lord has been bringing back those middle verses in First Thessalonians 5 about praying continually without ceasing. There's a song called Abide out there, which I just heard somehow for the first time. a couple months ago, and I've been crying to it regularly.
Mm.
And then I've been going through the minor prophets, and I'm in Jonah doing one book per month this year. And this morning, it stuck out to me. Jonah 2:8 says, "Those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that could be theirs," was a prayer from the belly of the whale. And
Mhm.
so I, it's just so easy to get distracted and be distracted by the gifts, by the things, by the blessings, and completely miss the giver and the blesser. And um,
Yeah.
so I think the one thing would be to recognize like he never leaves us or forsakes us. He's with us. Like, why in the world am I spending time early in the morning with him on a lazy boy and then very late at night? And for some reason, throughout the day, I just go about my life, right? And so I've been learning the last couple weeks, last couple months.
Mm.
Um, what does that look like to interact with him throughout the day
Mm.
and not have to have a physical alarm or a reminder do that for me or some sort of bracelet? Those things are really helpful. But
Mhm.
like, am I fixing my eyes on the unseen and not the seen? What is eternal, not temporary? Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
so that's a
Wow.
long one thing, but it's
Mhm.
frankly the most important thing.
Yep.
And it's so easy to feel good, to be wanted, to do excellent work, to thrive, and to have people praise you and all those things. All those things are awesome, but um, they're they're I'm clinging to worthless idols and forfeiting the grace that could be mine.
Wow. Pray without ceasing, abide. Wow. That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that,
Oh,
Lamar. That's really powerful, and I can tell it's deep coming from the heart.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, a lot more we could share. What would be even more fun next time we have you on is to have all four of your kids with you.
There we go.
Yeah.
That would be sweet. I, it is. I mean, it's a blessing
Yeah.
to have kids that watch what you do, but it's
Yes.
also really, really scary. And
Yeah.
so we get to see are we living what we're saying? And as you see that fruit in their lives, it starts to feel hopeful that maybe it's catching on. So
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can tell you're as they talk about in the book Sticky Faith, there's more caught than taught, and
mm,
they're definitely watching what you're doing and what you believe in, and also going to be asking the owner.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Lamar. Really appreciate you joining today. And we'll put some of those resources we talked about in the show notes. And appreciate you taking the time and looking forward to staying in touch.
Yep.
And just want to say thank you to all of our listeners for joining today for this week's edition of the Generous Business Owners Podcast. We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Generous Business Owner Podcast with Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can find the guest contact information in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.